What is going on, everyone? It is Zaino here, and today we are recapping the first week of Major League Balatro. So, to say it was a successful week is an understatement. I want to first thank all the creators who joined the league, as well as everybody who tuned into the matches, watched the VODs, blue skied the stuff I was posting, and interacted with the league this first week. It really made it feel like a real thing. It was a project that I started. I didn't know if this was going to succeed as a thing that people cared about, and the reception has blown me away. So I just want to start off this video with a sincere thank you to all of you. But let's dive into it. First, we have the recaps from week one, and the first ever Major League Balatro match was Michael A.L. Fox versus Dr. Spectred. Many in the community consider Dr. Spectred the heavy favorite for this league. However, the first game of the best of three would demonstrate the common theme of the week, that these matchups were going to be close, these matchups were going to be nail-biting, and oftentimes go to the final life. So the first match was on Black Stake Zodiac deck. Mouth would take an early lead, but with the help of a large economy and eventually finding Photograph Joker, Dr. Spectred battled back to make it 1-1 on lives. And in the end, Mouth came up just short on the firepower needed to steal the game away from Doctor, and Doctor took a 1-0 lead in the matchup. The second game was a bloodbath on Gold Stake Black deck, with both competitors struggling with the normal blinds in between the PvP battles. Once again, with both players down to their final life, Mouth this time was able to pull out the victory thanks to an Oops All Sixes and Bloodstone combination and a handful of Heart Aces. With the series tied up 1-1, we head to Gold Stake Plasma deck, where Doc took the early lead, relying almost entirely on Eternal Oddtod and re-triggering Jokers. However, using a skip tag, Mouth found himself with a double foil burnt Joker that was leveling up over time. Mouth was able to climb back into the game, down 4-1 to tie 1-1 on lives. However, in the end, unfortunately for Mouth, Doc was able to secure a Dusk and some glass cards at the very last second, ended up skipping to the PvP blind as to not break any of those glass cards, and Doc was able to take that match 2-1. Our second game featured myself and my longtime Balatro friend, Balenos Bear. We first met back in a Balatro demo, and it's been quite a journey together, and it was crazy to play him in the first game of Major League Balatro. And we played three incredibly fun White Stakes games. The first one was a seed for the ages with a double brainstorm blueprint ancient Joker galore. There was so many opportunities for strong builds in this. However, the ending came down to the fact that I was able to find an ectoplasm in a spectral pack that Balenos Bear actually could not see. And the reason he didn't see it is because he had a showman that showed him two trance cards instead. Things were looking up for me starting the second game, and I was somewhat expecting a clean 2-0 victory at this point early in the second matchup. However, Bears started to rally back, and in a back and forth affair, the idol did not end up cooperating with me, and Balenos squeaked out a victory in game 2 when we were both down to 1 life. In this game, Bear was using a Baron Mind build, actually completely opposite to my build, which was really interesting to see. And then in the final game, we were robbed of a final showdown in PvP when I oversold my Jokers to make Invisible hit Idol or Ancient Joker. What I failed to account for is how useful Photo Chad was for just my blind scoring, and I ended up losing it, not wanting to break too many glass cards for PvP. So in the end, Balenos Bear is going to be walking away with the 2-1 victory over myself in this game. Scooty and Andre headlined the third game of the multiplayer league, both looking to match Dr. Spectred's 3 points to tie for first place in the red division. All 3 games in this matchup are going to be played on Gold Stake, with the first game on Erratic deck. Some solid scaling from Pants allowed Andre to breeze past the blinds and his opponent, and unfortunately for Scooty, in a 2-1 life game, he was unable to get past the big blind and fell down 1 game to 4-0. Game 2 headed to red deck on gold stake, where both players battled back and forth until they were each left with a single life. The difference maker, however, was DNA for Scooty, allowing Scooty to make more copies of a red seal glass card and score over 2 billion points, tying the matchup 1-1. The final game was going to be played on plasma deck, once again on gold stake. And after 2 early PvP battles where Nandre was able to take the lead utilizing Hiker and pure chip generations, things went south. He lost 4 lives in just 7 blinds, 2 to Scooty, 1 to a small blind, and the final life to the big blind. Unfortunately for Nandre, he was just not able to get that final pivot from chips to scaling Molt on the unforgiving gold stake plasma deck. Probably the hardest combination, I think, to play in Balatro multiplayer. And Scooty would walk away with the 2-1 victory. The final match of the Red Division for Week 1 was shaping up to be one of the matches of the week. C-Dubs and Edzy both committed themselves to playing Gold Stake, and the first matchup was going to be taking place on Anaglyph deck. The first game was one of the first that I witnessed that consistent Gold Stake gameplay won out over attempt to go for a big play as Edzy cruised past C-Dubs with 3 lives remaining, playing pairs, and aided economically by an eternal mail-in rebate. The second game went to the Ghost deck where C-Dubs was able to find a Kenyo in a pack that Edzy passed on. This proved overwhelming, especially on gold stake, as C-Dubs blitzed the 4-0 sweep in game 2. The final game was also agreed to be Ghost deck gold stake, and Edzy had a significant lead with 3 lives to 1. At this point, C-Dubs even claimed it was GG in a PvP battle. However, Photograph saved a C-Dubs, and in the end, Edzy was the one to sneak out the victory in this game when C-Dubs was unable to find face cards that aligned with his ancient Sock and Buskin build. The penultimate game of the week featured 2 absolute OGs of the Balatro community with Gothic Lord UK and Nito. The first game was played on purple stake, yellow deck, an interesting twist of the game played on the highest difficulty in Balatro that does not have perishable and rental stickers. In the end, Nito was able to ride a deck of 10s to the finish line, taking the game with 3 lives remaining. Game 2 changed directions as a pair went to plasma white stake. Both competitors opted for heavy chips builds, focusing on foils, retriggering, and chip jokers. With the 2-1 life lead, Gothic was able to scrape a victory together due to several foil 2s and Dusk Joker. Game 3 stayed on white stake as a duo battled it out on Zodiac deck. Once again, Gothic headed into the PvP battle with a 2-1 life lead, with a build heavily relying on straights and blackboard and some enhanced cards. With some solid tarot usage, Gothic was actually able to proc his blackboard at the last moment with his final hand and take the matchup 2-1 over Nito. In the final game, we had a highly anticipated matchup between Halion and Raffle. The first game was going to be played out on white stake yellow deck. Both players were able to collect extremely powerful retriggering builds that surrounded Sock, Blueprint, and Glass cards. However, despite Raffle's fantastic deck manipulation, the difference in the game ended up being Halion's ability to grab Brainstorm, Chat, and Photograph due to the economy generation supported by gold cards and golden ticket. In the second match, the choice was white stake ghost deck. Once again, Raffle showed an extreme ability to deck manipulate as well as build an economy. Both competitors down to their final lives, Raffle was able to build a flush 5 glass hand that hit E11, just surpassing Halion's 5 billion by a handful of ×2 triggers. The deciding game was erratic deck white stake, and once again went down to the final life. Here, the difference was DNA, which allowed Halion to create a ton of polychrome glass 4s, pushing him over the edge for the massive victory over Raffle. So, taking a look at the standings heading into week 2, we have Halion, Gothic, and Balenos Bear all tied for first place in the blue division, all winning their matchups 2-1, and then Raffle, myself, and Nito tied for 4th place with 1 point each, gain that 1 point from a round win. Again, the way the scoring works in the Balatro multiplayer league is you get 1 point for a match win and 1 point for a game win. So if you win a matchup 2-1, you get 2 points for those game wins and 1 point for the matchup win. All of us with 1 point have those 1 game wins. In the red division, we have Dr. Spectre, unsurprisingly, at the top, next to Scooty and Ezzy, all with 3 points. And then Nandre, Malf, and C-Dubs all have 1 point. The fact that all games went to a Game 3 decider means that the league is already close, and we're already in store for an extremely close battle to see who can finish in the top 3 to at least make it to the plan, and who can finish first overall to get that bye and go straight to Championship Saturday. Now, taking a quick look at the schedule, we have Dr. Spectre and Scooty playing on Monday, April 14th, at 1 p.m. Eastern. Myself and Raffle will be battling out at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, April 15th. Nandre and C-Dubs will also be playing on April 15th, the Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Blanos, Bear, and Nito will be playing at 1 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, April 16th. That day will also host Halion versus Gothic at 3 p.m. Eastern, and then the final game of Week 2 will be played on Thursday on April 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern between Malf and Edzy. Previewing the matches a little bit, first let's talk about Scooty versus Dr. Spectre. Both of these competitors won their first matchup, and I think both are going to lean on the higher stakes side of Balatro. However, it would be interesting if either chooses to go white stake. I do think white stake may favor the Doctor a little bit due to his experience and just knowledge of how to deck manipulate. Obviously, nobody has more Nan Imps than Dr. Spectre. He knows how to get the most out of those low stakes, but he's also won 60 gold stakes runs in a row, so it's not easy to take him on gold stakes. But I do think Malf demonstrated in that first game why you may want to play Doctor on high stakes. You add just a little bit more variance in the game, and there's just a little bit more for Doctor to think about outside of just getting the highest score against you in the PvP battle. I do think Scooty stands a very good chance to get a win in this one. He showed a lot of knowledge on how to play those higher stakes games in his match with Nandre, and I'm very much looking forward to this one on Monday. Next up in the game previews, we have myself versus Raffle. This one's going to be really interesting. Raffle was very honest with me. He said he let Dan Halion go ahead and play white stakes to make the game a little bit more interesting, but now that we both have had a singular loss, I think Raffle, I don't think Raffle has said straight to my face, we are going to play gold stakes if it's up to him. I've been practicing a ton on higher stakes. I do think if I get the opportunity to choose first, deck or stake, I am going to go with white stake or even black stake difficulty, because I do have a firm belief that I can go toe-to-toe with just about anyone when it comes to deck manipulation and economy generation on those lower stakes. I think it'll be an interesting battle either way, and this is an important one. While it's early on in the season, I think Raffle and I are both very solid competitors, and the fact that we both started off the season with a loss, it would be huge to go down to having 2 losses even this early, and a lot is riding on this game, so I'm looking forward to it. And in one of the most exciting matches, we have the third match of the week, Nandre versus C-Dubs. Both of them in the same boat as Raffle and myself with a loss. But what I think makes this very interesting is C-Dubs and Nandre could play any stake. I think they both tend to play higher stakes, but they would most likely be successful on any stake. And I really don't know how this match is going to go. C-Dubs has been playing a lot of multiplayer Balatro, but Nandre as well has been practicing. And after that first match, both of them sticking to gold stakes only, but ending up with a loss. Will they switch it up? Will we see a lower difficulty setting and maybe more deck manipulation economy? Or both of them going to stick to their guns saying, I can play the highest level of Balatro and beat you at it? Again, a lot is on the line with both these competitors starting 0-1 in the league, needing to put some points on the board. In our fourth matchup, we head over to Nito and Bear, and this one is going to be the first game of the week that actually has a competitor who won and a competitor who lost, with Nito coming off that loss to Gothic and Blanos coming off the victory against myself. What is going to be interesting here is I do think Bear has actually a little bit less experience as of late on higher stakes difficulties. Nito has been practicing. She had a coaching session with the doc, playing all sorts of different stakes, and actually really did well in that purple stake matchup, while Bear 100% can hold his own at higher difficulties. Hasn't been playing them as much as of recent. Has been doing a ton of challenges on white stake, multiplayer games on lower stakes, and as we saw in my game against Bear, He is very, very, very good at deck manipulation, at getting everything that you possibly can out of each round, at figuring out those lower stakes where you have a lot more room to play around. It will be interesting to me to see if Nito attempts to play higher difficulties against Millennial Spare or tries to take him toe-to-toe with, after that training session with the doc on White Stake. In another battle of two victorious players, we have Halion versus Gothic Lord in the blue division. Gothic coming off the win against Nito, Halion coming off the big win against Raffle. I think Halion demonstrated in his first game that this is not someone to mess with on lower difficulty. I think going forward, it's not going to be as charitable in the league, and people may force Halion to play on a higher difficulty. However, something to keep in mind is Gothic played his choice of white stake difficulty against Nito. So if this is white stake difficulty, I think Halion may have an edge going in this one, but I wouldn't be shocked for Gothic to switch it up. I think another very interesting aspect of this one is going to be the deck choice. I found Gothic's deck choices in the first matchup really interesting, and I'll be curious to see how Halion responds to whatever Gothic chooses there. The final matchup of week 2 is Mouth versus Edzy. Edzy coming off that victory against C-Dubs, Mouth coming off the loss against Dr. Spectred. These are two gold stake merchants. Mouth is one of the best gold stake players that I've played against. Edzy is one of the best gold stake players that I've watched played. Both of these competitors are streamers that consistently just grind out gold stakes, and they're very, very good at winning on gold stake. Now, the thing is, PvP gold stake is slightly different, but I highly anticipate that every single one of these games is going to be played on a high difficulty. Maybe Mouth turns it down a little bit and doesn't choose gold stake. Maybe he chooses something like black stake. Maybe he even does go white stake just to throw Edzy off his game, as again, Edzy is almost strictly a gold stake player. I also wouldn't be shocked to see Mouth try and throw in some really hard decks at Edzy, something like a Plasma, a black deck, even something like an erratic deck to just throw some chaos into the game, because Mouth, as he demonstrated against Dr. Spectred, can kind of thrive in that chaos. Meanwhile, while I don't think Edzy would have a struggle there, I do think Mouth just has a little bit more practice. In the same line of thinking, I'm very interested to see what Edzy goes with. Does he go with just a straight like Zodiac gold stake kind of choice? Does he want to play on something that's just familiar, that he thinks he has the most opportunity to navigate higher difficulties? I don't know who to choose in this game. I think it's maybe going to be the most entertaining of the week. I would not miss it if I were you. And that is a wrap on your Sunday recap for Major League Balatro. Come back next week on Sunday. We'll be doing the same thing, recapping week 2, looking forward to week 3, and we'll probably be adding more guests, more analysis to the show. Thank you so much for watching. Again, link down in the description to the Discord, to the Blue Sky, so you can stay up to date. We are also working on a small website implementation so you can follow the league even closer. I'll also have a link down below that has all the VODs from all the games so you can get caught up if you're unable to watch them live. Again, thank you so much for the support. I'll see you next time, and hopefully I beat Raffle on Tuesday. See ya.